Now, coming to Woodward Sports, Woodward and Main Street, the Woodward Sports Network Detroit Lions Show. Let's go! Catch Gabrielle D. Phillips, Matt Broder, and Terry Foster for all the latest news on your Detroit Lions every week. Only on the Woodward Sports Network YouTube channel and woodwardsports.com.
And sometimes you can only say so much. You got to live it, unfortunately. You got to get your heart ripped out, which we did. And it's a lesson learned. And look, I told those guys, this may have been our only shot. Do I think that? No. Do I believe that? No. However, I know how hard it is to get here. I'm well aware. And it's going to be twice as hard to get back to this point next year than it was this year.
Hello. This was not a show that I wanted to do, but here we are, live on the Morning Woodward Show. And to quote the great band from the 60s, the Yardbirds, still I'm sad. Boom, boom, boom. Aww. All right, fine. There we go.
Oh my God! I came to this morning.
Hey, you know what? This is not. Welcome to the Morning Woodward Show, live on the Woodward Sports Network. And for any of you Yardbirds fans, you know that is exactly how the song goes. I am not exaggerating. I am not doing any of that.
Dude, you remind me of a monk. Forget the Yardbirds.
It was kind of a Gregorian chant in that song. I was just doing what I was supposed to, and I do got the hood up because I am kind of not feeling so good today. But you know what? I'm happy to be here to give the autopsy of the game and to have a little bit of a therapy session with some of the best guys that I know. The legend, Terry Foster, to my right. How are you feeling this morning?
I'm feeling great, man.
Great. All right. Well, that's I love the optimism. JB Smooth, how you doing?
I mean, I feel great and I'm healthy, I guess, if that makes any sense with what Terry was saying. But deep down, yeah, I'm not doing great
What's
today.
the mantra in the movie What About Bob? I feel good, I feel great, I feel wonderful. And sometimes you got to say that to yourself after a day like today. And Detroit Kool-Aid, how are you feeling today?
Oh man. I feel good. I feel good personally. But my Lions heart, it stings just a little bit, man.
Oh,
really
yeah.
Poor
things. Yeah.
Hey, you know what? I want to make
man.
sure you guys have until noon to cancel your Las Vegas plane reservations and hotel reservations so you can get your money back. Oh, no, I'm still going, bro. Like I told Flannel, we got to go drown out our sorrows.
Okay. Oh, man. Unfortunately, no. If you want to go to Vegas to see the Chiefs versus the 49ers, I'm sure go ahead, knock yourselves out. But obviously, we all wanted it to be the Detroit Lions. And honestly, that loss was one of the hardest I've ever dealt with as a fan. I was completely broken, and it hasn't really gotten better to this point. I know I watched some of the post-game show last night, and we all had a little bit of our therapy session, but it kind of leads me to the question, and TFos, you've been around longer than we have. Not calling you old.
I am old. No, I admit it. Shoot.
Yes, you've been covering the teams for a very long time, longer than I have been born. So, Terry Foster, was this the most devastating, heartbreaking loss that you've ever experienced as a Detroit sports, I'd say, coverer?
Yeah, there's been a lot of Detroit heartbreak because this is what Detroit is about. It's about heartbreak, but it's also about recovering from this.
Yes.
When you look at the stage that the Lions were in, I'm going to have to say, yeah, this was the most devastating. I think when others that compare is Pistons are playing the Boston Celtics in 1988 Eastern Conference Finals, and Vinnie Johnson and Mark Aguirre bump heads, and then they lost that game. Bird stealing the ball from Isaiah was pretty devastating. Now you look at the Wings. People were convinced the Wings were going to beat the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yeah.
In the Stanley Cup Finals a few years ago. They came into Joe Louis Arena and won. That was pretty devastating. But this one, when you are one step from the Super Bowl, and I can hear all you people out there making reservations for Las Vegas. You're going to buy tickets. You're going to get a hotel reservation. You're going to do all this. And then it's like snatched away from you. That's pretty devastating. But we shouldn't be surprised, because I'm not going to use the term same old Lions, but it's the same old stuff that happens to the Detroit Lions. And I know people are complaining about Dan Campbell. I thought the key play was that fluke 51-yard completion to Ayuk when it goes off of Vildor's helmet. I mean, come on, that ball was headed to the ground, an incomplete pass, gets his hands on it, hits him in the helmet, and it stays up just long enough. And the reason I think that's the number one play, because if that play isn't complete, I thought San Francisco was dead. But secondly, that one play gave San Francisco all kinds of momentum, encouragement, and at the same time, I think the Lions let it affect them. They couldn't tackle. They couldn't run the ball.
Couldn't catch.
Josh Reynolds was dropping passes. And the other thing, I hear Dan Campbell. Let's blame this on Dan Campbell. Here's who you should blame. Ben Johnson. How do you go an entire quarter when your house is on fire and you don't go to Amon-Ra St. Brown once? How do you do that?
There are certainly a lot of angles we could go at this, and we're going to get into it more in the next segment, where I have to bring up a dirty word that you can argue the Lions did or did not do. But you mentioned some you mentioned some causes as to why the Lions won that game, and I think why they lost that game, and I think that is all very well and valid. You also brought up some terrible Detroit sports heartbreaks, like Bird steals the ball, the phantom foul in the finals against the Lakers. You talked about I know you talked about last night the 05 Pistons, the 09 Red Wings. I think the 09 Red Wings was a little bit easier to stomach because they won it the year before, but still, Game 7 at home, I think everybody thought that the Red Wings were gonna win that game. But yeah, last night, just considering the way that they lost, considering how happy we all were at halftime, considering it seemed like at that point in the game that it was, not to be hokey, but it seemed a little meant to be at that point. But when the second half hit, you pretty much blinked and it was tied. So absolutely devastating. JB, was this the most devastating loss you've ever experienced as a Detroit sports fan?
I gotta say, yeah. Just because last night in that third quarter was the most SOL shit I have ever seen from a Lions team. And I just don't understand this. The first half was perfect. The most you can ask any team to sit here and play for you. But then that third quarter just pops up, and Sam, as you said, in a blink of an eye, that lead is just gone. And you're just standing there with your hands like, what the hell just happened? This doesn't make any sense. Come on. Kendall Vildor bouncing the football off his face mask for Brandon Ayuk to catch it. Like, what? No. That doesn't happen. It's not supposed to happen. It's not supposed to end like this.
No, yeah, and that's the thing, JB. And I think Terry, you kind of mentioned it too. When we talk about the NFL playoffs, sometimes you got to get a couple of like a ball to bounce your way, some sort of breaks, and that one to Brandon Ayuk, in which Kendall Vildor, it hit his helmet and bounced right up to Brandon Ayuk. He caught it inside the 5, and the 49ers, obviously, as we all know, ended up scoring the touchdown to cut the lead to 7. Those are some of those plays where you just kind of think, damn, even though the Lions at that point still had the lead, it just might not be their day, and it's so unfortunate. And Freddie felt 313 in the chat, and I heard you call into the postgame show last night. You did a great job, and he used a very, very colorful analogy to describe the Lions
Epic
losing that
call.
game. What was it? It was like walking in on another man sleeping with your wife, and then he gets up and then punches you in the face, and then the man will have had impregnated the wife, and then and then the kids are gonna call that guy daddy instead of you. And
does the guy kick your ass before he leaves?
Yes.
All right.
And the funny thing is, and Freddie felt 313. The reason that I brought that up is because despite all of that, he says it feels worse this morning. So damn, Freddie, I genuinely hope that you're doing all right, because I could hear that you were in pain last night. But to a big extent, we all were. Kool-Aid, was this the most devastating loss you've experienced as a Detroit sports fan?
Man, I don't know. It definitely was a distraught feeling last night. I think it would feel worse if I thought that this team was one of the SOL teams of the past, because those hurt, because I didn't expect them to get back. When we've seen the Lions make the playoffs in the past and they lose, I thought, well, there's our shot to ever get back to the playoffs. And year after year after year, it kind of proved that. When the Detroit Pistons lost in 2005, the reason why, to me, I was absolutely devastated is because Ben Wallace had left. That team looked different, and it looked like they blew their chance to win another ring, and I didn't know when they were going to get back. I don't have that same feeling with this Detroit Lions team. All year, after every single win, each win in the playoffs, you hear people say, salute Sheila, salute Chris Spielman, Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell. They do things right. This team is set up for the long haul. They're doing this with house money. They're doing this with players who aren't that good in the secondary. They're doing this with rookies. They have an opportunity to go out there and improve and get better next year and make a Super Bowl run. One loss with some fluky plays in the second half and some questionable decisions. I don't know, man. My brain, from a logical standpoint, as a hooper, bro, when you take these types of losses, it's like, yo, run that back right now, because I know who we are. And I guess from my fandom standpoint, I'm looking at this Lions team and I want to believe that I know who they are, and it brings down the devastation just a little, though this hurts almost just as much as that 2005 Pistons loss for me, man.
I hear the pain, but guys, this city is weak as a fan base. If you think this was their last opportunity to win a championship, then I think you're weak as a fan base. This show is just starting.
Exactly.
These dudes are babies out there. You know what I'm saying? You got second, third, fourth. I mean, rookies who are making big plays. And I think that the one thing, look at the two teams that made the Super Bowl. Kansas City, that experience. They got that hurt and they got that pain. San Francisco, experience in the NFC Championship game. They got that hurt and they got that pain. You need hurt and pain sometimes to get over that hump. Most of the championship teams that I am familiar with, they've had that moments where, oh, y'all done. You had your chance, you messed up, that's it. But then they come back, and if you don't get fat and sassy, you got that hurt and pain that you can fall back on, and that helps you in the future. It's going to help this franchise too. They're not done.
You know why that's important to me? Is because at the beginning of the season, when I didn't believe in this Lions team, you who've covered this team and covered Detroit sports and seen all the different perspectives and everything play out, you know what I'm saying? Like the architect from the Matrix, you told me this is a real team. You told me this team is going to get it done. And I remember on the show, we were filling in for the heavies at Dispo, and I couldn't believe it. All show, I kept going back to, bro, please tell me again that this is a real team. And you're sitting here right now saying the same thing, and I have to believe that. I have to. Like, everything that my eyes and my heart tells me, man, is that this team is just getting started, and I believe in that. Does it hurt right now? It should, or else my blood's not pumping Honolulu Blue Kool-Aid right now. But am I down and out on this team? Am I like, oh, this is the same old Lions type stuff? No, it's not. It's not. I believe they will learn from this, and I do believe that the show is just getting started.
I appreciate that. I appreciate your guys' perspective, Kool-Aid and TFos. And I want you guys to hold that thought, because on the next segment, we're going to get into a little bit more of the minutia of the game. And I'm going to ask the question to everyone in the room and everybody in the chat. Did the Lions do a 5-letter word that rhymes with Loke? But first, I have to tell you, Loke is not a word, but still. But first, I have to tell you where I get my A+ haircuts from the A+ stylist. And that, of course, is Lady Jane's. Come to Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men for an award-winning haircut experience. Register to win a trip of your dreams and all expenses paid suite for the 2024 NCAA tournament. That's right, no expense spared for you and 5 of your best buds. Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men open 7 days a week. Walk in anytime. It's wicked awesome.
Come to Lady Jane's for an award-winning haircut experience and register for a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to win an all-expenses-paid suite for the 2024 NCAA tournament for you and 5 of your best buds. Lady Jane's open 7 days a week. Walk in anytime. It's wicked awesome.
Now, coming to Woodward Sports, Woodward and Main Street, the Woodward Sports Network Detroit Lions Show. Let's go! Catch Gabrielle D. Phillips, Matt Broder, and Terry Foster for all the latest news on your Detroit Lions every week. Only on the Woodward Sports Network YouTube channel and woodwardsports.com.
What up, Woodward Sports? Dispo Dispensary is bringing you the ultimate experience for the big game in Vegas, and they want you there. You can win 2 tickets to the big game, plus a flight, hotel, and accommodations by following these simple steps. First, follow dispo.michigan, @showmedicated, and @showmedicatedcbd on Instagram. Like Dispo's pinned post, comment and tag someone you love to bring. Plus, if you repost on your story, you get an extra entry. It's that easy. Join the Dispo family for a chance to score in Vegas. The big game awaits. Follow, like, tag, and repost now.
Oh, sorry about that. What happens when you run a great business for over 50 years? You expand and offer more products to more people. This is exactly what Les Stanford did by adding Les Stanford Buick GMC, the same great service that customers have come to know and trust on Woodward Avenue just south of 9 Mile. Check out Les Stanford in Dearborn today. Find the brand you want at lesstanford.com. Welcome back to the Morning Woodward Show live on the Woodward Sports Network, recapping the Lions' unfortunate NFC Championship game loss to the San Francisco 49ers. I am Flannel Sam. To my right, I've got Terry Foster in the TD booth. I have JB Smoove, and in the sound booth, I have Detroit Kool-Aid. And first off, I just want to say thank you for joining us today. I know it's not the show that any of us wanted to do, not the show that you guys wanted to listen to, but I appreciate us all being together for our therapy session. And Charles Papinow in the chat. Terry is right on. This is the opening act. It was a tragedy to be sure, but this team is very young. Reload on defense with an edge rusher and at least one shutdown corner, and it will be better. All right. So I understand 100% that sentiment. I understand some of the optimism for the future at this point. But right now, I have to just give the reality of the situation. The Lions had a 17-point halftime lead with a chance to close the game out and go to the Super Bowl, and they choked. That's all that you can really say about that. And I know that there were some bad things that happened, some drop passes, some questionable decisions, a fumble by Jahmyr Gibbs, but that all plays into the whole said choking. When you really look at
that's choking.
That is absolutely choking. When you look at the second half, the first 4 Lions possessions were turnover on downs in which Josh Reynolds dropped a potential first down pass from Jared Goff. The next drive was that fumble by Jahmyr Gibbs. And then you've got that 3 and out, which was punctuated by a drop by Sam Laporta over the middle, and then a huge drop by Josh Reynolds, a ball that was put right into his breadbasket on 3rd and 10 that would have gotten the first down. And then on the drive after that, they miss it on, they turn it over on downs again. And that drive also had that deep ball to J-Mo that he probably should have caught, and then on that 4th and 3, Jared Goff was pressured. He rolled out and basically threw it to no one. Nothing was really there. So that's about as badly as you can start a drive if you're a half if you're the Detroit Lions. And also the 49ers, on the other hand, field goal, touchdown, field goal, touchdown. The 49ers went on a 20-7-0 run to give themselves a 10-point lead, and that was just basically all she wrote from there. So to me, the Lions, even though you can look back at they're young, they're not as talented, there's going to have many cracks at it. This was an epic choke job, a 17-point halftime lead. And oh, by the way, they actually held the 49ers to a field goal on their opening drive, which I thought was a win. And then they had a chance to get the ball back and salt some clock and get a score, and they obviously did not do that. So as much as we want to be happy about the season, as much as we want to be talking about the optimism for the future, the Lions blew an opportunity to go to a Super Bowl. And Terry Foster, you know as well as anybody how hard it is to get to the Super Bowl in the NFL. They might not get another crack at it. We think that they will, but that was, to me, a big-time missed opportunity and a choke job.
No, I agree with the choke job, but I still think the Ayuk play caused the choke job. You're rolling around, you're having a good time, playing San Francisco, and the fact that you allowed a play to turn the momentum of a game shows that you weren't strong enough mentally yet in a big moment. I mean, you can overcome something like that in week 12 against the Chicago Bears. This is the NFC Championship game. You had no reason to choke this game away because you're in control. But the fact that you allowed a play, or in this case it wasn't an official's call, but allow officials call a call, or to allow a flukish play to get inside your head, shows you weren't ready for this moment yet. And maybe this is a blessing in disguise. If you're this mentally weak in this game, maybe you go to the Super Bowl and get blown out 60-0 or something stupid like that. So could be a blessing in disguise. But, once again, I always go back. You got to have that gristle. You have to have that anger. You have to have that hurt and pain to advance in pro sports.
Oh, yes. I mean, and that's the thing. I see a lot in the chat. I see some Freddie felt 313. The moment was too big for us. And, I mean, this Lions team had never been there before. I know certain players like Jared Goff had been there with the Rams, and C.J. Gardner-Johnson had been there with the Eagles. But as a whole, this was a young team that had never really experienced that type of playoff heartbreak. And the San Francisco 49ers, as we all know, have. They were in the NFC Championship game last year. The year before, they were in the Super Bowl in 2019. They experienced a lot of those ups and downs. And when it was when it was winning time, the San Francisco 49ers made all of the big plays in the second half, and the Detroit Lions did pretty much every single thing that they could to barf all over themselves, which I get it. Hopefully someday we could look back at this as a learning experience when hopefully they get back a couple more times and actually win the game and hopefully go to the Super Bowl and win that. But right now it just stings. And Brendan Harris, yes, we choked. Yes, it was a once in a lifetime opportunity. I don't know if I agree with that, but a 17-point halftime lead in an NFC Championship game, you're not going to get it better than that usually. Regardless, we were blessed to be there, and yeah, it obviously doesn't take away the playoff win against the Rams and Matthew Stafford in the wild card round. It doesn't take away the home playoff win against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It doesn't take away all of those experiences. I just think that it is a missed opportunity that the Lions, at least until they get back, unless they get back, it'll be one of those that they're kicking themselves about. I mean, what say you?
Yeah, they'll kick themselves about it, but I still believe in this team that they will kick themselves for the next few weeks, refocus, and be ready for the next chapter in their lives. This is a very good football team, and I think they have shown that throughout the season. We keep waiting for the floor to fall out. We keep waiting for the Lions to disintegrate. We keep waiting for the Lions to disappear, and they don't do it. They just keep hanging in there. Now, for a half yesterday, when you get on a 27-0 run against the Niners, yeah, that's choking in the moment. But once again, I believe, and this is just me, I believe you need that hardship to be able to advance. And now they got it. The bad boy Pistons couldn't beat Boston. The 04 Pistons didn't have a point guard until Larry Brown turned Chauncey Billups into a point guard. 68 Tigers. I'm going to go old school. In 1967, they had a lead at the end of the season and choked it away. Then the next season, they were like all pissed off and played with salt and vinegar. And I think it was 35 games they were trailing in the seventh inning on. They came back to win 35 games. So if you think this is the end, then you still believe in same old Lions, which I don't believe in.
Well, and an old jarhead says in the chat, what do you mean they didn't fold? What planet are you on, TFos? And I don't think that's what you meant. They did fold in this game. In this NFC Championship
I said
game.
They folded.
Yes.
What? Am I not communicating? Am I not speaking English?
No, you
said
in
choked.
the moment
They folded. However, let me say this, be clear. I think this bodes well for the future. You have to have that pain in your system to succeed in the future. Yes, they choked. Yes, they folded. Did I get that clear?
Yes, you did get that clear.
All right.
But we all, I think also what you meant is that they still had an excellent season. They won the division. They won 2 playoff games at home. And ask the Dallas Cowboys how easy it is to win home playoff games. It's not that easy. And the fact that they were able to do that and get to the NFC Championship game and prove that they belonged with the San Francisco 49ers, that's not something that should be lost on all of us fans. It's just in the immediate aftermath. I know on the postgame show last night that I was feeling like, I don't know, D-Mac and Pete Spivak, and even you to some extent, Detroit Kool-Aid, and I'll let you defend yourself for maybe being a little bit too optimistic because it's not that easy to get here, but at the same time, I understand how overall in the season as a totality, the Lions certainly, it was a success, but they did choke away a NFC Championship game, but I guess it's better than choking away a division or a wild card round weekend. And I'm going to let you, Kool-Aid, respond to that. Did the Lions choke, or are you still thinking more about the future is bright?
But that's the thing. They did choke this away. That's kind of what fuels my optimism. They didn't get smacked in the face. They didn't get punked like I heard people all week on the show saying, y'all are just drinking the Kool-Aid, believing that the Lions can even be in this game. The 49ers are this team, blah, 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 blah. Look, we went into their house, man, on the road. We had them on the ropes. Fluke plays, bad play calling in the second half, questionable play calling in the second half, and players who just didn't step up in the moment. That's what ultimately cost this Lions team. They definitely choked. But I'm not going to sit here as well after the whole season of saying what this team is, how they're being put together, and act as if this is just going to disappear. We're looking at two teams who I believe the Lions are built very, very similarly to, and have front offices that are going to help to sustain this, that continue to get to this point. It might not be easy for teams that are constantly in rebuild. It might not be easy for the previous Lions teams to get to this point, but this current Lions team, this iteration of this team that honestly played above the talent that they have on this squad, they got to that point, and they look darn good doing it too. They look solid all season. No back-to-back losses all year at all. No back-to-back losses. You got strong play out of these rookies as well, who are going to be the foundation of this team moving forward. And you still have the front office who, I'm telling you, you can't sit here and talk about Brad Holmes and Sheila and all these people. And I'm going to continue to go back to that point all year long about how good they've done, and then believe, well, that's just it. That's just right. If that's the case, fire them all and start over.
Right.
Well,
here, let me steal the line from Neil Rule. He always said this, well, both things can be true. Yes, they choked. And yes, I believe there's an optimistic future. And yes, there's a chance you couldn't get back. You won't get back in this position again. All that is true. But my belief is they're going to be back.
It's a bunch of same old Lions fans to me. If you really believe that now, oh, wow, this is our one shot to raise the NFC North banner. And now I keep seeing people saying, well, the Packers' young talent. I don't care about their young talent. I care about Brian Branch. I care about Jahmyr Gibbs. I care about Jack Campbell. I care about who we're going to add to this team. I care about what the Lions did this year, and they showed something that we haven't seen in a very long time. Not just getting to this point, but how solid they were, including Dan Campbell all year. People want to say, don't gamble for it in this game. He cost us. We're not in this position if he didn't gamble some during the season as well, during the regular season. We're not to this point. We would have had losses this year if there were certainly some of these games he chose to just kick the field goal. Instead, we got to this point. You got to take all is as all is, and you have to find a way to improve your talent base next year so that your play calling can mesh with what's on the field. Like that one play that Brock Purdy, I forget who he was throwing it to, and it was on a third down. He was running to his left and just tossed it up there. I forget who it was that jumped up high, made the one-handed catch, and it was like, bro,
Juwan Jennings.
It's like, bro, you got to be kidding me. Everything went their way, and everything went against the Lions in that second half. Every fluke play, every luck play, every amazing play in that second half went against the Detroit Lions. That's not something where I sit up and I say, well, you know what, the Lions, the one thing I do sit up and say, you know what, they kind of dictated the Lions' tempo a little bit is in the second half when they started stacking the box and daring them to pass. They tried to run, and they were running right into the line in that second half, like later in that second half, and it wasn't really working for them. And when they said pass, the passes worked. Jared Goff was putting the ball on the money. You got people who were dropping passes. That, to me, matters, man. If it was like Jared Goff was off, he's not looking like the quarterback that we think he could be, these wide receivers are not looking like the wide receivers we think they're going to be, Amon-Ra and Sam Laporta are still going to be here. They're not disintegrating. They're not going somewhere. They're still here. That I have to believe in. That's why I said otherwise, label me with a big old Sam O' Lions fan across my forehead. That's dead. Sam O' Lions are dead, and the Sam O' Lions
If they were led by
too.
a bunch of 35 and 36-year-old guys on their last leg, I'd be petrified about the future of this team. But like I said, man, these are pups, young pups. They don't even know what the league is all about yet. And once they learn that, they'll be better. And there's always going to be an adverse situation in a game. They'll learn how to deal with that better. I still say that the Ayuk pass freaked them out. Because, all of a sudden they couldn't tackle. They couldn't run. People started dropping passes. Jared Goff, the whole thing, a guy that's been there was fantastic the entire game. Yeah, he threw a couple wounded ducks, mostly on the flea flicker and the trick plays. But for the most part, this guy was money.
Yeah, no, I mean, the Josh Reynolds drops are certainly not his fault. The Sam Laporta drop wasn't his fault. The ball that he threw to Jamison Williams in the end zone that would have given them the lead back, that wasn't his fault. Although you can argue that it would have been a tough catch for JMO. He would probably say that he should have come down with it. The only thing I will say, though, is, and this is where I have to push back a little bit, I'm upset about the game. I'm pissed. I'm devastated. I said that they absolutely gagged this one away. And I don't like this idea that, because I'm going to do it a lot more as the show goes along. It almost sounds like if I say anything critical about the team that I'm just an SOL fan at this point. And I reject that completely.
No,
and
speak your piece, man. Nobody's saying that.
That's the Kool-Aid a little bit, though. No. I kind of feel like you implied that a little bit.
No. I'm saying to the people who believe this is it for this team. You can criticize them because we have to. The only way to improve from this moment is to criticize them. I'm not saying that they played a perfect game and just rah. This hurts me, man.
Yep.
I hate what happened yesterday. You guys saw us here. This sucked, bro. Like, you want to talk about devastation? This, to me, is right on par with the Pistons losing the championship. This was just the Lions losing an opportunity to play for a championship. And I'm saying it hurts just as much as when the Pistons lost the championship that they had in the bag. Y'all remember that 05? They had that championship in the bag, and they choked it away. They choked. There are things that I want to see them do better. But the thing is this, I'm not jumping off the bandwagon like a lot of fans did after the Seattle game, like a lot of fans did after the Ravens game. They played the 49ers, the best team in the NFC, and they really should have walked out of there with a win. I'm not going to sit here now and act as if that wasn't the truth before the game and still the truth after the game. If I believe that they're folding up shop, then that's when I say put the SOL fans on. And I'm not saying that's you. I'm saying anybody who believes that this is a Sam Lions team believes that this squad is done now. They're not going to win anything next year.
No, and I would agree that this is a team that is certainly as well set up for the future as any team in the NFL. It's just, we talk about some of the fluke plays and the Ayuk play and stuff like that. You don't get a team go on a 27-0 run in the second half just based off of fluke plays, because then we can start saying if that play to Ayuk didn't happen, and those two drops by Josh Reynolds, and that fumble by Jahmyr Gibbs, and the fact that the Lions defense couldn't stop a nosebleed in the second half. So many things went wrong, and obviously it was borne out by the collapse that they had, in which a 17-point halftime lead turned into down by 10 with 3 minutes left, and then the Lions got a touchdown late to make it a three-point game. But it was an epic collapse. It doesn't mean Lions are SOL, but as I saw in the chat, and I don't like to bring up this term, it was kind of an SOL-esque second half. I'm not saying it is SOL because they showed that they could play with the San Francisco 49ers on the road against the team that overall is more talented, but...
Don't be afraid to speak your piece. If you want to say SOL, you can say that. It was exactly what the Lions of the past have done. Mm-hmm. They've choked away things. They've allowed a play or two to get into their heads. They've, for whatever, there's always in big games, a WTF play that happens. Calvin Johnson against the Chicago Bears with the pass that he caught and they said he didn't catch it. Let me see. How about this moment? Barry Sanders, the greatest running back perhaps in history, goes and to Green Bay. What was it? It was 13 carries and 1 yard or something like that. Stuff like that doesn't happen, but it happens to the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, and that's why I'm not going to kill people who have a little bit of that mindset today. I mean, it's still fresh, it's still raw, but I think as the offseason goes along, the pain of this will subside, at least to some extent for us fans. Let's just hope that the players use it as motivation, because despite the devastation, despite the choke job, it was this Lions team first time in the playoffs, and there is an element to me, not every team has to do it, but most of them do. You got to pay your dues a little bit before you can climb the mountaintop. It looked like the Lions were actually going to get an easy path to the Super Bowl, but that obviously is something that never really happens. And coming up next, we're going to talk about a factor that I believe may have cost the Lions more than most people did. I think a lot of you are going to get mad at me, but let's have a discussion. But first, I got to tell you about Dispo. Experience Dispo Dispensary, a team that curates an unbelievable atmosphere. Dispo is now giving out 2 tickets, plus hotel and flight accommodations to this year's big game in Vegas. Go on Dispo's Instagram page at dispo.michigan and follow directions on the pinned post, or scan the QR code and it will take you there. Let's get you sports fans to Vegas. Dispo Dispensary, disposhops.com, your local cannabis plug.
Have you ever wondered where all the finest restaurants get their steaks? It's Fairway Packing Company, providing Michigan restaurants, hotels, and casinos with prime beef for over 60 years. But now you can buy these cuts of meat for yourself at the Steak Shop by Fairway Packing Company. Prime porterhouse, A5 Japanese New York strip steak, dry aged Wagyu beef tomahawk. Delicious. Get to the Steak Shop today. Enjoy fine wine, have a private party, and get the finest cuts of meat anywhere. The Steak Shop on Mack Avenue in Grosse Pointe Woods, or order online, fairwaypacking.com.
At Planet Fitness, you can get energy without the judgment.
Hi, can you help me with this?
You don't know how to use it?
This is better.
Join now through January 19th for just 24 cents down, $10 a month. Never intimidating, always free fitness training and equipment for every workout. Join today during the Big Fitness Energy Sale for 24 cents down, $10 a month, cancel anytime. Deal extended through January 19th.
Over 50 Metro Detroit locations.
Love Woodward Sports? Love wearing clothes? Then you should be wearing Woodward Sports clothes. Check out our full line of merch at woodwardsports.com. Just click on Shop. We have all your favorite designs, like Dan Campbell kneecaps, Woodward Golf, and of course, our own logoed out merchandise. Men, women, infants, kids, all love Woodward Sports. Impress your friends. Impress your boss. Impress your dog. Buy Woodward Sports merch today.
Dreaming of a new home but feeling the financial pinch? Mark White & Associates, your trusted real estate experts, are here to help. Mark White and his team will pay up to $5,000 of your closing costs. That's right, I said $5,000. Call Mark White & Associates today at 248-290-8242 or visit them at markwhitesales.com. Again, call Mark White today at 248-290-8242 to make your dreams come true. Welcome back to the Morning Woodward Show live on the Woodward Sports Network. I am Flannel Sam. The man to my right is Terry Foster. We've got JB Smoove in the TD booth and Brandon Dent, aka Detroit Kool-Aid, in the sound booth. And I want to read this comment really quick because it piggybacks into what we're going to talk about. And Terry, you mentioned it earlier, although I don't think that you took it this far. Peter Van Laarhoven. Let's hope the real choke artist on this team, Ben Johnson, gets a new job. And I'm not. Here's the thing. Ben Johnson did not have his best game in his best second half, but you already want him gone at this point. I mean, I know that he might get the Washington Commanders job, but that's a little extreme because here's the thing, and I wanna start with this. And I know a lot of people are gonna get mad. A lot of people are gonna accuse me of flip-flopping, which is false, by the way. But I certainly did not like, at least the first time that Dan Campbell went for it on fourth down from the 49ers 28-yard line, 4th and 2, up 24-10 in the third quarter. And here's why. And this is, and I think this was a big turning point in the game because then the 49ers, after the Lions missed that Josh Reynolds drop, the 49ers drove right down the field. That was a drive with a big Ayuk play to put them within 7, and then the wheels were basically off from there. And here's why I didn't like it. The Lions had actually gotten, I would say, a win on the 49ers' first drive. The 49ers got the ball back at halftime down 24-7, and the Lions actually held them to a field goal. I thought that was, I mean, you ideally would like to pick them off or force them to fumble or force the 49ers to go 3 and out or at the very least punt. But holding them to a field goal, I thought was a very, very big deal. And then on the Lions' next drive, they actually took 4 minutes and 2 seconds off of the clock. Then they were up 24-10. They got the ball 4th and 2 at the 49ers' 28-yard line. At that point, I would have taken the field goal. I would have at least tried it, because everybody talks about how Michael Badgley's the worst kicker of all time. He can't make anything. Wrong, I tell you. Wrong. During his time with the Detroit Lions, 9 of 11 from field goals between 40 and 49 yards, 3 of 4 from 50-plus yards. He had been 3 for 3 so far in the playoffs, and he's 8 for 9 in his playoff career in field goals. At that point, you take the 3 points, you put yourself back ahead by 3 scores. It's a 45-yard field goal. It's extremely makeable. And then at that point, if the Lions score any points on that drive, they're up 3 scores, I think that they win the game. You might say, well, Sam, the play was executed perfectly. Josh Reynolds just dropped the ball. And my response to that is, in the NFL, there's an old saying, I believe John Madden brought it up or coined it. I don't know if he coined it or he piggybacked it. When you throw the football in the NFL, 2 of 3 things can happen, or 3 things can happen, and 2 of them are bad. Drop passes happen. There are a lot of variables. Jared Goff actually got pressured on that play by Nick Bosa. He stepped up. He kind of had to rush his throw. It wasn't a perfect throw, but Josh Reynolds dropped it. But to me, at that point, you have to take the 3 points and just go ahead 2 scores, because at that point, it would have been 6:58 in the third quarter. You would have had the exact same 17-point lead that you started off the third quarter with, and then you would have been off from there, and I think the Lions would have won that game. To me, that was, I would say, reckless aggression instead of controlled fury. I don't know if any of you agree with me, or if you want to say, just because you supported that one time where Dan Campbell went for it on 4th down, now you have to support every single time that he ever went for it. And I did not like that call. The one when they were down by 3, I didn't love either, but it was that one. The one where they were up by 14 and they had a 45-yard field goal with an attempt to go ahead by 17. That was the one that irritated me the most. I know, Terry, you're going to mention Ben Johnson. I know Peter Van Larhoven are going to mention Ben Johnson, but I did not like that aggression at that moment in the NFC Championship game. It's not a home game against the Carolina Panthers. It's the NFC Championship. Be smart.
You should be smart, and it wasn't the best play. But here's the thing we can't do in Detroit. When Dan Campbell goes for it on 4th and 12 at his own 20-yard line, we can't have emojis with him with big balls. Look, oh, Dan Campbell's got big balls. Wow, look at that guy. But then when they don't execute a 4th and 2 play, which the play did work, then we can't say, God, this guy's terrible. You shouldn't make all these plays. You either with him or against him. This is who he is. But, the fact that you're talking about the difference between 14 and 17 points, at that point, I don't think is that big of a deal. I think what the wheels are already turning in the wrong direction. Even if they're up 17, they still weren't tackling people. They still were dropping passes. They were still doing all the things that create a loss. Another thing, 27-0 run. Would have been a big difference. It was a 27-3 run. San Francisco was in control of that game because the Lions were choking. And I still think the choke job would have continued even if they had converted a field goal in that position, because they just weren't right at that point. Everything was going against them, and a lot of it was their own doing.
But, Terry, I would argue at that point that the choke job really hadn't happened yet. It was only a 3-0 49ers run at that point. The Ayuk play hadn't happened. The 2 Josh Reynolds drops didn't happen. The 4th and 2 play that they didn't execute was the first Josh Reynolds drop. The not being able to stop the 49ers in the second half hadn't happened yet. To me, that was the beginning of the unraveling at that point. And Cody Ingle puts in the chat, Badgley isn't Tucker. That's 100% true. Not everybody is the greatest kicker who ever played NFL football. But as I said, when I gave you those numbers, Michael Badgley is a lot more reliable from 40 to 49 and even from 50 plus than you think. He made a 54-yarder the week before, which we all loved. At that point, I just feel like it was that time to play safe, that the choking hadn't necessarily happened yet. And I know the play that was executed, it was perfectly executed in a lot of ways. Josh Reynolds, all he has to do is hang on to the ball, and they get the first down, and they probably still win. But my point always is, we're talking about humans. We're talking about a human element where, I don't know, Jared Goff did get pressured. He escaped it. Those are things that can happen on these plays, even if the play is drawn up perfectly. A Josh Reynolds. We all like Josh Reynolds for what he did this year, but he's still a human wide receiver who is capable of error. To me, it was just the safer call to go ahead 17 and to stop the
How
bleeding.
about this? Can't Jared Goff convert a simple handoff to Jahmyr Gibbs without Gibbs either was on the wrong side of something? You are a professional athlete. This is something a quarterback and a running back do thousands of times in a year. But in that moment, you can't convert a simple handoff.
Well, yeah, I mean, trust me, Jahmyr Gibbs choked. Josh Reynolds choked. The defense choked. There was a lot of choking going on over there. You could argue that Ben Johnson choked. I would argue that to some extent Dan Campbell choked. And for the record, when you say you're either with him or against him, I don't want him fired. I'm not out of my mind. I'm not an idiot. I understand that his aggression was, at times, it really helped the Detroit Lions. And at times it didn't. I mean, we can even go back to the Green Bay Packers game where they faked the field goal inside their own 30 and they didn't convert it, and the Packers scored the touchdown that was kind of the dagger in that game. It's just, to me, there's a difference between going for it early in the game when it's 0-0 or something like that. If it's 4th and 1 from maybe the 45 or something, or something. But at that point, I just think taking the 17-point lead would have been the smart move, at least to me. I understand people who say that's how they got there. That's just who Dan Campbell is. But just because I supported some does not mean that I have to support all. And that's where I think some Lions fans, and I'm not saying everybody in the chat, some get a little bit gatekeepy, because I cannot stress this enough. I do not want him fired. I don't want Ben Johnson to leave. I don't want Aaron Glenn to leave. I think that I think Dan Campbell is the coach of the future, and depending on if Ben Johnson or Aaron Glenn get coaching jobs, I would like to see them stay as well. It's just, at this moment in this game, I think that with a lot of players and a lot of coaches, including Dan Campbell, the moment might have been a little bit too big for them because they really hadn't been there before.
Yeah, but here's the spot we're in. If Dan Campbell gambles and the play works, he's a genius. If Dan Campbell gambles and the play doesn't work, he's a buffoon.
Well, but that's the thing. Now he has to wear the buffoon hat at this point. And I'm not saying he is a buffoon. I'm not saying that he's a bad coach. He's a great coach. He might damn well win Coach of the Year, and I wouldn't hate it. And like I said, this doesn't erase the division title and the 2 playoff wins. I just thought it was a little bit reckless to go for that 4th down at that moment, because I think in that ways, that's where the floodgates were open. JB, what did you think about the 4th down calls? Do you think Dan Campbell had some culpability in the Lions losing this game, no culpability, or just what say you?
I mean, I got to agree with Terry. If the 4th down call goes well, then yeah, we're sitting here saying, oh my God, Dan Campbell, you're a genius, but you can't shy away from him doing these 4th calls. That's the person that he is, and that's, as Kool said, hey, that's how we got to this situation that we're in right now, and that's how we got here, by him gambling and doing those calls. I know at times it might not be the best decision, but hell, he was trying to go out there and win the game. He was thinking 3 wasn't enough, and I mean, I kind of got to side with him as well too. It's easy to sit here and criticize after the fact, saying, oh, he should have just went for 3, and just played it safe. No, he's still going out there. He's trying to win. He's trying to make sure that there is no doubt in anyone on that sideline's mind that, hey, you're not going to be able to come back from this and take over this game. So, I mean, you got to live and die by these gambles, and this was one that, didn't go our way, unfortunately.
But you know what? Is this dangerous? I think he does that because he has supreme confidence in his players, and he wants to give them ownership of the games. That's one of the reasons he does that. Is that a dangerous way to think in the National Football League, where we're so used to close to the vest, let's punt all the time? It's a very conservative league. This guy's come in and say, hey, I'm going to do it a different way. And I see the league changing a little bit more toward Dan Campbell, and they're getting away from the conservative button-up way that you're supposed to do things. So maybe Dan Campbell's presenting the future for us.
I mean, maybe. And as I've said before, there was a lot of times where the aggressiveness worked. It just, to me, it wasn't called for in that situation, in that game. And Timothy, wait a minute, Timothy, You just came up with the most brilliant thing ever said in this chat. You don't have to agree with every call. Well, I'm going to get told by a lot of people, including my favorite person in the chat, Shad, that yes, you do have to agree with every call, or else you want him fired, you want him out to pasture or something like that. No, that is certainly not the case. It's just at some point you just have to be a little bit smart. And I personally think, by the numbers, that a 17-point lead would have been the dagger to some extent, especially given the fact that the Lions had just taken 4 minutes off the clock. There would have been 6:58 left with a 27-10 lead, which was the exact same lead that they had at halftime. They would just have taken some time off the clock. Kool-Aid, I'm going to go to you.
Yes, sir.
How did you feel about the fourth downs? Do you like them, or do you think that they had some role in the Lions losing?
Knowing what this Lions defense can be sometimes, I actually was surprised when he didn't go for 7 at the end of the first half.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That one to me was the one where I'm like, okay, we talked about it on the stream, so it's not like revisionist history. We talked about it in the moment. We had just seen the Niners prove that they're the type of team that can come back in these playoffs against a team kind of similar to the Lions and the Packers the week before. I thought that he should have been Dan Campbell in that moment. I thought that would have cost him a little less than what happened coming out of the half, knowing that the Niners get the ball out of the half. I would have tried to go for the kill shot then and put the pressure on them then. I think it is, a little bit more costly when you do it in the second half of that game and you go for it twice, especially after some of the fluky things, some of the things you've done to cost yourself. At that point in time, it didn't feel like they were doing it because they had control of the game. In the first half, I thought if he goes for it, you got control of this game. Everything's working in your favor. The second half, it felt desperate, to be honest with you.
But Kool-Aid, isn't a 17-point lead at halftime control of the game? I would have been livid more livid than even the one that I keep talking about that would have put him up ahead by 17 in the third quarter. I would have been more livid by the one going into half than that, because I think a 17-point lead at halftime is a stranglehold to some extent. I know that the 49ers were getting the ball back, but that's 3 scores. And if they wouldn't have got that, if they would have done all of that last drive and all of that first half domination to only have a 14-point lead, and the Niners would have had a chance to get the ball back right away and cut it to a 1-score lead, I think that would have been reckless. To me, I liked the call for a field goal at the end of half, but you didn't.
I wasn't against it. I just thought it went against what Dan Campbell has shown us, the consistency that we say we want to see. So if it works or if it fails, we could say that's Dan Campbell. To kind of go away from it in that moment, and you're not playing in the regular season. You're not playing a so-so team. You're not playing a squad that they don't have the offense to come back. You're not playing a team where you say they don't have the defense to stop us. This was the San Francisco 49ers, who are the best team in the NFC. I thought that you needed to do everything while you had the game and the momentum and everything working in your favor to continue to push the same pedal that you pushed all season long. And that's what I'm saying. I was like, okay, well, he took the 3, the kicker made it, that's cool. But I'm telling you, in that moment, I still said, I feel like this 49ers team is the type of team, and they've shown us all year, to be kind of a resilient bunch, and they actually have the personnel and the coaching schemes and the linebackers and the players on the D-line and the cornerbacks to try and actually make something happen that's going to make this a much more contested game than it probably needed to be. And then when you see them come out that second half, because we talked about it, the 49ers were going to make adjustments, and they did. That's why I thought they needed to, instead of trying to play it safe, I thought they needed to go out there and put a dagger in the hearts of the 49ers in that first half while everything was working their way.
I mean, I understand that. Like I said, I think 17 points should have been, well, it's hard to say a dagger for a whole second half left to play, but I think that was a bit of a kill shot. I think we were all pretty confident when they had a 17-point lead into halftime. My point with all of this is just that they had a chance, and I think Michael Badgley, I like him more than some. I'm not saying that he's Justin Tucker. I'm not saying that he's prime Adam Vinatieri or something like that. I just think he's perfectly capable of executing a 45-yard field goal in an environment where it wasn't rainy, it wasn't snowy, it wasn't windy. I think that 17-point lead with just under 7 minutes to go in the third quarter would have been the right call.
If you can't convert a 45-yard field goal in today's NFL, you should be working and slopping hash at Burger King.
Absolutely.
Because that's a chip shot now.
Yeah. No, and I think that Michael Badgley would have made it. But coming up next, we're going to talk about something that I think should be talked about. We haven't really gone over it yet, but it's the Detroit Lions defense. But speaking of defense, hey, I didn't even plan that. Guardian Alarm is the best kind of defense. It's a new.
Sam.
Thank you, Kool-Aid. It's a new year. Let Guardian Alarm offer you customized solutions from real experts. Our professional technicians take the time to recommend security and automation solutions specific to your needs. 24/7 professional monitoring. Call us anytime, day or night, and know that a Guardian team member will stay on the phone as long as needed. Technology backed by people. Your safety and security deserves technology that's been proven to work and people have been proven to care. Call 1-800-STAY-OUT. That's 1-800-STAY-OUT. Guardian Alarm, your local security experts.
At work and at home, we're there with smarter security solutions. Featuring complete automation with customized alerts and more. For over 90 years, we've been the company that's been counted on to protect what matters most, all with personalized service and care. Right now, for a limited time, receive a free video device plus free installation with a new home system. Guardian Alarm. We protect Michigan.
Now, coming to Woodward Sports, Woodward and Main Street, the Woodward Sports Network Detroit Lions Show. Let's go! Catch Gabrielle D. Phillips, Matt Broder, and Terry Foster for all the latest news on your Detroit Lions every week. Only on the Woodward Sports Network YouTube channel and woodwardsports.com.
What?
Oh, yeah. Nothing. G-G-G-G-A. Oh, sorry, I forgot. There we go. Oh, cheers, buddy. I think we need to get you a pick.
Over 60 years, Fairway Packing Company has provided Michigan's finest restaurants, hotels, and casinos with prime beef, Wagyu beef, and dry aged beef. Experience the Fairway difference for yourself today. Visit the steak shop in Grosse Pointe Woods for grab-and-go steaks or order online at fairwaypacking.com. Welcome back to the Morning Woodward Show live on the Woodward Sports Network. I am Flannel Sam. We've got the legend Terry Foster to my right. Always good breaking down a Lions game with you, Terry, even though it was a painful one. But it's all, but we're all going to be all right. At least we think. JB Smoove in the TD booth and Brandon Kool-Aid Dent in the sound booth. And throughout the whole season, there's been a lot of talk, I would say, about the Lions defense. Is this a championship level defense? Is this even a good defense? There were moments at the year where there was a lot of chatter about should Aaron Glenn be fired, which I disagreed with. But the reality is that the offense is the strength of the Lions and the defense has been their weakness. And although they've been playing better at times, or at least making the stops, getting the crucial turnovers, getting the red zone stops when they've needed to, I've got some numbers to show why this Lions defense was inevitably going to cost them at some point. The Lions this season were bottom 10 in points allowed per game. They were 10th worst. Since 2004, there have only been 2 teams that were bottom 10 in points allowed per game in the regular season to win the Super Bowl. Those were the 2006 Indianapolis Colts and the 2011 Giants. However, both of those teams played great defensively in the playoffs. The 2006 Colts allowed 22.5 points per game in the regular season, 16.2 points per game allowed in the postseason. That is a big difference. And the Giants, the difference was even steeper. 2011, 25 points per game allowed in the regular season, only 14 points per game allowed in the playoffs. Contrastly, the Detroit Lions in 2023 allowed 23.2 in the regular season and 26.7 in the playoffs. So, my question to you, Terry Foster, and to everyone in the room, was this Lions defense, A, was it ever a championship level defense, and B, was it bound to cost them at some point?
I will allow you to talk about the defense if we also talk about the offense, because there was a 27-0 run in the second half, which means the defense sucked and the offense sucked. So I think what we do too often is we look just at the defense and then we ignore when the offense struggles. The offense was awful, and some of the points given up was the handoff to Goff to Jameer.
Sure.
Put it right on your doorstep. So I think both units stunk in the second half, and I will talk about your defense, but bro, that offense was awful.
Sure, in the second half, the offense wasn't great. I would just say that they did score 31 points, and it wasn't all the defense's fault. That a short field off of that fumble by Gibbs, that was, what are you supposed to do with that? That you can't really fault the defense for that. I wanted to remind people, and I'm not saying that people had forgotten, that this Lions defense all year had struggled, and even in the playoffs, they've actually, by the numbers, at least in points allowed per game, were worse. Even though they made the stops when they needed to, their offense was doing more than enough to compensate that. But at some point, this defense, which had no all-pros, I'm not saying, you know how much I love Aiden Hutchinson. He didn't have his best day. This defense is not as talented as some. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Was this always bound to be a defense that cost this team in the playoffs? JB, what do you think about that? Was this defense always going to be something that prevented the Lions, at least this defense this year, from winning the Super Bowl?
I don't know about that. I do feel like this defense at times was going to be a little shaky. I'll say that. As you said, there's not a ton of all pros on this team, as you can sit here and say, but at the same time, they were basically putting this whole defense together bit by bit. AG was sitting here, adjusting at halftime, and maybe he didn't need to adjust this time at halftime, but every single game they were willing and somehow, some way, piecing this defense together to get those wins, which you got to give them credit for. You're out there, you're making this team work, you're making this defense work. But as Terry said, if you're going to criticize the defense, you got to criticize the offense as well too. Like that's not fair.
Yeah, and like I said, the offense wasn't great in the second half. I just think that was the unit all year long that was more consistent, and that's really what got them there. The funny thing is, I was about to wax poetic about the offense in the first half, but you can also say that about the defense, only holding the 49ers to 7 points in the first half, and then obviously the 27-0 run. Everybody gets a piece of the pie for a blame when you get outscored 27-0 to start a second half. It's just that's the type of unfortunately that's the type of playoff meltdown that will be mentioned in NFL films for years to come. Unfortunately, hopefully the Lions can make up for that. And this is all based off of the premise too that I think this Lions defense will improve. I think that guys like Brian Branch and Aiden Hutchinson will only get better. They'll get another draft. They'll hopefully make some moves in free agency. And I think this defense next year will be a lot better overall when it comes to the totality of the year. But Kool-Aid, I'm going to go to you next.
Yes, sir.
Was this defense always bound to cost the team in the playoffs? Were they ever a championship level defense to you?
I didn't think that they were going to cost them in this playoffs unless they made the Super Bowl, because I didn't foresee, and we talked about this a little bit on break, I didn't foresee any real dual threat quarterbacks that were going to be on the pathway to the Super Bowl for the Detroit Lions, which has been their kryptonite on defense. And in the second half of that game last night, they let Brock Purdy turn into Justin Fields, and they made no adjustments. I thought that was one of the key things in this game, and one of the key reasons why the Detroit Lions defense was absolutely reeling. They steeled up, they forced some third downs, and then they allowed Brock Purdy over and over again to kind of get loose out of the backfield and pick up not just first downs, but long runs. I feel like he almost outrushed C-Mac in that game.
The other thing that was dangerous yesterday is in almost on all his runs, it looked like they had him, and then he was gone.
Yep.
And then they couldn't catch him. They couldn't tackle him. He did look like Justin Fields and Barry Sanders. And I'm like, this is Brock Purdy clowning him like this with his legs?
That is, and if you were to say before the game, what is one of the things that you absolutely cannot let happen? And also a thing that I think we would have been confident would not happen is Brock Purdy torches the Lions defense on the ground. You'd think that would be a recipe for the Lions losing that game, and unfortunately it was. And Brandon Katz, I know who's a lightning rod in the chat, he says it as well. Purdy hurt Detroit a lot running the ball. That's why I wanted to talk to you, Kool-Aid, because you actually mentioned it during the break, and I thought it was really smart because Here's the thing. The Lions defense all season long, what have they consistently done well all year? Stop the run. Not many teams or running backs have really gone off against the Lions this year. But also, one of the tells to why the Lions lose games, or the games that they lost, is those are the games in which teams did run all over them. You look at the 49ers last night. You mentioned Brock Purdy, but also Christian McCaffrey in the second half was getting it going too. The 49ers in that game, 155 yards, 3 touchdowns on the ground, 4.7 yards per carry, including 5 carries for 48 yards for Brock Purdy, which were absolutely backbreaking. But you also look at their loss to the Ravens. They gave up 146 yards on 5.4 yards per carry and 2 touchdowns. And of course, Lamar Jackson is their starter. He leads the team in rushing. He had 9 for 36 in that game. They lost to the Packers, which aren't one of the best rushing teams in the NFL. But in that game, they gave up 109 on 5 yards per carry, including 3 carries for 39 yards to Jordan Love, which is another thing. You absolutely do not want to let Jordan Love get loose. And then against the Bears, the one that they lost, they gave up $142 on 4.7 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. Justin Fields had 12 carries for 58 yards. So the Lions defense, it was good against the run for the most part this year, but they still had trouble with mobile quarterbacks. And when they went up against teams, and I'm not trying to diss the Lions run defense, because when you do what they did over the totality of the season, it's not a fluke. But they only went up against 4 of the top 10 rushing offenses in the NFL this year. And they were torched by 3 of them, and they stopped the Atlanta Falcons in their game against the Falcons and Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. But they did not face the other of the top 6 of the top 10 rush offenses. And there were even some signs, I would say, of holes in their rush defense in the first couple games in the playoffs. I mean, Kyron Williams gave them 61 on 13 carries in the game against the Rams, and he went out in that game with an injury. And even Rachaad White, he gave the Lions 55 on 9 carries in the game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So this defense, they struggled a lot. They were more opportunistic in the Buccaneers game and in the Los Angeles Rams game. But I always think that this is just not a championship level defense yet. That is something that they can certainly address in the offseason. I think they'll be much better next year. But this year, I know you want to mention the offense, which is very, very valid. But this defense, when you look at the talent, when you look at everything, they're just not a championship level defense yet. Keyword, yet.
That's true. And maybe you can look at Brad Holmes for that. Brad Holmes had every opportunity to bring in more defensive tackles. He didn't. He had a choice. Do we go Jalen Carter or do we go Jahmyr Gibbs and Sam Laporta? I think overall that made the team a better team, maybe not a better defense. He could have brought in Ndamukong Suh, who called the Lions and said, I want to come back home. And they're like, nah, we good. Jeez. So for whatever reason, the Lions didn't see the need to shore up that defensive line. Now, if they don't do it next season, I don't know what to tell you, bro.
Yeah, and for the record, I'm not, and I know you weren't either, I'm not going to be that person, they should have drafted Jalen Carter because they lost in the NFC Championship game. Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, and...
No, I think it was the right decision.
Sure.
The defense isn't good, but I think overall the team is better with Laporta and Jahmyr Gibbs than if they had Jalen Carter now.
Sure, and we're talking about this year, not a Lions team that choked away the division to the Packers, not a Lions team that lost in heartbreaker to Matthew Stafford at home in the wild card round. We're talking about the NFC Championship game. So as disappointed, and now maybe I'm going to get more toward Kool-Aid and Terry Foster's side on this one, as disappointed as we are, this season overall, it can be 2 things. I think it was a rousing success still. Going into the season, it was win a division, win a playoff game, and they won division, won 2 playoff games. It was a rousing success, but it was also one of the bigger missed opportunities in the history of the Lions. We think they will be back. We think their defense will be better. Hopefully, like some of their guys that are on the roster, their younger guys that Brad Holmes have drafted, improve even more. I think their offense is capable of being the best in the NFL next year. It's just we have to see if they are able to bounce back, which I think they will, but I think this year there were still too many flaws, at least on the defensive side of the ball. And of course, when your offense goes silent in the second half, you're really kind of effed at that point.
Yeah, I understand there's a lot of emotion going on around here and outside the world, but I think we're being a little bit harsh on this team. This is a franchise that hasn't done doodly squat in 30 years, and now they make the NFC Championship game. Yeah, they choked it away. But, for the most part, this team is I'm not going to use the word great because they didn't win a championship, but very good, very solid, a real franchise. It's a lot of things that if you're a Lions fan and you live and die with this team, you have a lot to be proud of. Once again, haven't done doodly squat. It's my favorite word now, in 30 years. And now you've got the coaching staff, the front office, the players who are different. They have a different mentality. And I think, one of your questions was, could this damage the franchise forever? It's going to damage the fan base, but that is a strong locker room. That's a strong coaching staff. And I think what they'll do is they'll brush it off and get better.
Ooh, good segue there, because I want to talk more on that when we come back from break. That question that you posed that I put on the show sheet. But first, I have to tell you about Big Boy. Wintertime in Detroit is always better with comfort foods from Big Boy. Try the veal parmigiana or the new Southern Comfort chicken bowl. How about breakfast? The stuffed potato pancakes are back. The classic lumberjack or Santa Fe guard. Also new apple pie hotcakes that are too good to miss. Top it all off with a new gingerbread shake for dessert. Shop by your local Big Boy today.
Savor the heart of home at Big Boy with our all-new down-home comfort dishes. Feast on home-style goodness with our Southern Comfort Chicken Bowl, veal parmigiana, and apple pie hotcakes. The down-home delight doesn't stop there. Potato pancakes are back. Dive into the richness of our perfectly crafted potatoes with our classic potato pancakes and our stuffed potato pancakes. Top off your meal with our new gingerbread shake, a seamless blend of creamy vanilla and sweet gingerbread flavors. Nothing beats the comforting taste of down-home cooking. Enjoy every bite, only at Big Boy.
Stop searching for a vehicle and start finding one. Les Stanford Chevrolet Cadillac makes it easy. We harness the power of multiple dealerships and own the biggest selection of GM brands in the area to get you the car you need. With the Les Stanford Group, you'll have access to 4 different dealerships, providing you with more makes, more models, and more choices. We're connected to more than 1,000 vehicles. And with so many high-quality CPO vehicles available, you'll find new car quality at pre-owned prices. You can start and end your search at lesstanford.com today.
Thank you to all the fans for making Woodward Sports your #1 online destination for Detroit sports. We promise not to drop the ball.
RIP to the same old Lions. Big thanks to Sheila, Brad, and Dan for putting them to rest. And guess what else has found the grave? Same old rock, paper, scissors. Jack Labrador has revolutionized that tired game with 2 new symbols and a franchise-changing 3-point play. Discover the action at jacklabrador.gg now and find out why. Once you go Jack, you never go back. Welcome back to the Morning Woodward Show live on the Woodward Sports Network. And after this segment at about, 9:24, 9:27-ish, somewhere in that range, we're going to take some phone calls. I want to get the pulse of the people because today is just one big therapy session for all of us because unfortunately the Lions were not able to win the NFC Championship. And we started talking about it before the break. Is this the type of loss, Terry Foster, that could haunt the Detroit Lions franchise? I don't want to say forever, but for years to come.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
If this is a different franchise, if, all the grit and salty and all the crap that they talk about is true, then no, this will not haunt them forever because there's going to be better memories down the road. This will be a blip on the radar, and good franchises, which I think this is a good franchise, uses this as a building block to a great future. I think you have to have pain to be successful. And this is the pain that the Lions have suffered that's going to make them a better franchise. Will this haunt them forever? Absolutely not. Now, it's going to haunt the fan base because we're not taught to be mentally strong. We're not taught to be strong in tough situations. We don't have to move on to greatness. This franchise, their job and their goal is to reach greatness. And so I think they'll brush this off and be good down the road.
I certainly hope so, and I like your optimism. Before I give my take on it, this is from David Beasley. Flannel, you're trying to criticize the missed opportunity from one game while pointing out season-long issues, and I think what he's talking about is what I was saying about the defense all season. My point with all of that is that the things that hurt them a lot throughout the year, or at least when they lose, it hurt them. The Lions did in the game against the 49ers. They gave up 34 points, and they actually let the 49ers run all over them with Christian McCaffrey and Brock Purdy certainly in the second half. It was just they did enough to lose that game, and certainly in conjunction with turning the football over, which is not good either. But here's why I agree with you that the Lions are very much built for success, and you think that they will get back. My point with what I'm about to say next is not to compare the Lions to these teams, not to say that these teams are at the same exit of the highway. My thing, and I'm not trying to be Mr. Pessimism, so don't accuse me of it, is that it's very, very tough to get to the NFC Championship game, to get to the playoffs, hell, to win one single NFL game. So you can't ever take these opportunities for granted. And that's why I think it was more of a missed opportunity than maybe even other Lions fans. Because since 2010, and this is a pretty crazy stat. I'm not trying to be doom and gloom. The Lions are very, very much set up for sustained success, at least so we think. Since 2010, the team that has lost the NFC Championship game, none of them have went on to win a Super Bowl since. The Bears, 49ers, Falcons, 49ers, Packers, Cardinals, Packers, Vikings, Saints, Packers, 49ers, and now the Lions. The 49ers might end up changing that if they beat the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl. My point is that it's hard to experience this kind of heartbreak and then run it back. I mean, I think the Lions are built for it. We trust what Brad Holmes is going to do in the next draft because he's hit 3 straight home runs. He's knocked 3 straight drafts out of the park. We expect that a lot of these players like an Aiden Hutchinson, Brian Branch, Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs, all the young guys get even better. Penei Sewell, Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's hard to imagine Penei and Amon-Ra getting any better, but they most certainly could. I think that is all well and good. I think they're going to address some holes in free agency. I think next season this team is going to be better on paper than this season. I don't think there's any question about it. It's just you never know what could happen. I know a lot of people don't want to think about this, and Kool-Aid, you kind of scoffed at that earlier. The Packers, this isn't going to be a weak NFC North forever. You think the Packers are going to be good. The Bears have some high draft picks, although who knows what they're going to do with them. They might screw it up. The Vikings, you never know. They seem to be delaying a rebuild, but with Kirk Cousins back, you just never know. So to me, I think they will get back. I think that the Lions are set up for sustained success, but it's not a guarantee. Just ask a lot of the teams that have lost NFC Championship games since 2010. That's all. Not trying to be doom and gloom, just trying to present a little bit of a warning to fans. That's it.
Well, I will counter by saying how many of those teams were this young? How many of those teams had such high production from young guys? How many of those teams had this very unique bond between coach and general manager? A lot of situations in pro sports, the GM and the coach hate each other. They tolerate each other. These dudes are boys, and they're on the same page. So there is a different mindset with the Detroit Lions than a lot of franchises. Maybe as they're building this, maybe they thought this moment would come next year, was coming a year early. So I think, once again, this is a very unique situation, and we're going to see it play out.
Sure, and I think that's an excellent counterpoint to the points that I brought up, that, yeah, the Lions are unique in that regard. They are ahead of schedule. They weren't the most talented team in the playoffs. They certainly weren't as talented as the San Francisco 49ers, but they went right there. And if it weren't for some mistakes in the second half, they would be going to the Super Bowl, I think, with a very good chance to knock off the Kansas City Chiefs. But they're ahead of schedule, and they're certainly set up for a lot of sustained success. There's no guarantees in life. And yeah, those other teams, I doubt that any of them were as young and as and with so many great draft picks as the Detroit Lions have. JB, is this the type of loss that could haunt the Lions franchise for a while, or do you think are you confident they will bounce back?
I'm definitely confident they'll bounce back, but this is, and it will be, a stain in the Lions history book. Once again, you can just add it to the rest of the mistakes and everything that they've made in the past, but I definitely think this loss will fuel them a lot more than we think.
Sure.
And above all else, it's going to sit here and give Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell time especially with the draft coming up here and the picks that we have. Yeah, they're going to be looking for some hidden gems and some talent in this draft that they really truly believe in that can help to this young core. This isn't the same SOL as before, where it's just a rebuild after rebuild and you got all these old grizzled vets that are just in here for one last ride. No, these are young, athletic rookies and players that want to see this team succeed. And I think coach showing up next season is going to be a different turn of events, and we won't be sitting here and saying, hey, maybe you shouldn't win for it on fourth down. No, they're going to have these games in hand fully.
Yeah, and I think that is very, very well said, and I think Ricky Bobby puts it very, very well. Thank you for your service to the chat after winning Talladega Nights. But anywho, under Brad and Dan, every year they get better. Next season, we winning the Super Bowl, and I'm not. Here's the thing. Every season they have gotten better. So far, it is what we like to call a linear rebuild. They have a terrible first year. They have a winning record but don't make the playoffs the second year. Then they win the division and go to the NFC Championship game and lose the third year. I think this is the first season, and I want to get everyone's opinion in the room. Next year has to be Super Bowl or bust, correct? It wasn't this year. It was win the division, and win a playoff game. And everything else, to some, was a gravy. But I think next year it's got to be Super Bowl or bust, right?
I agree with you. The Lions are a big boy now.
Yeah.
When you mention great franchises or that have success, when you mention the 49ers and the Eagles, Pittsburgh Steelers, what they used to be, you have to mention the Detroit Lions. Because they're big boys, so they're not just let's just make the playoffs and win a ball game here and there. No, that mentality is done, and that's what's doomed the Lions for years. The whole thing is we can win ball games. I used to cringe every time I heard that. We're dangerous on it. Forget that. Now it's Super Bowl or bust.
But was this season a success to you?
Huge success.
Okay, so like this season they met their goals, but because they met their goals and the rebuild has been accelerated, next year is a Super Bowl or bust.
Yeah, the thing is that the ending was so shocking to Lion fans who were so vested in this team and wanted to go to Vegas. They want to see this team. But, when you look back at a 30,000-foot view, the Lions were really good this season. Every time this city panicked, the Lions were great or good the next week. There's panic in this town now, and I understand it because your emotions are raw because the game just happened less than 24 hours ago. But and maybe I'm the wrong guy to have on this show. I'm not in pain today. I'm not hurting today. But I will tell you this, from what I see in this franchise, y'all gonna be happy at the end of the day. It may be a couple years down the road, but at some point you're going to be, okay, here we go.
Actually, I think you were the perfect person to have on today's show because there's that perspective that you have that maybe someone like me who's feeling pretty bad doesn't have. And that's one of the reasons I wanted, obviously nobody wanted to do this kind of a show today, but one of the things I was hoping to get out of it was to have that perspective, to have that optimism back in this franchise, which never really went away. It's just with the type of loss that they had, which was a collapse, which was a choke, it changes some things for some. But we'll see when you see the players that Brad Holmes signs in free agency, when you see the draft, and we should implicitly trust no matter what he does. I think all of us will be all back in again, and the home opener at Ford Field will be unlike any atmosphere we have ever seen. And by the way, the phone number 313-552-6322. Do we have a lot of people on the line, Kool-Aid?
Yeah, we got a couple people on the line.
All right. When we get back, we're going to take some phone calls, but first I have to tell you about Swiss Insurance. Do you have football on the brain? Of course you do. Fall ushers in college and professional. Oh, whoops. That is the old read. With everything going on with the Lions and Michigan football, even if you're sad right now, you're still feeling invested, and to celebrate everything, you should shop your home and auto insurance. Shop it like a pro with Swiss Insurance. They cover Woodward Sports Network, and they should be covering you too. Ask for Market Swiss Insurance today at swissins.com or call 248-800-4177. Again, that is 248-800-4177, Swiss Insurance.
Where's the most convenient place to get that big fitness energy? It's Planet Fitness. Join today for just $1 down, $10 a month. With over 2,400 locations and equipment for every workout, you can get in, get energized, and get going. And with free fitness training and most clubs open 24 hours, everyone belongs in the judgment-free zone. So join today for $1 down, $10 a month, no commitment, cancel anytime.
We don't like to brag that we are the toughest sports network in Detroit, but we do have a guy named Darren McCarty on our side. Woodward Sports.
What up, Woodward Sports? Dispo Dispensary is bringing you the ultimate experience for the big game in Vegas, and they want you there. You can win 2 tickets to the big game, plus a flight, hotel, and accommodations by following these simple steps. First, follow dispo.michigan, @ShowMedicated, and @ShowMedicatedCBD on Instagram. Like Dispo's pinned post, comment and tag someone you love to bring. Plus, if you repost on your story, you get an extra entry. It's that easy. Join the Dispo family for a chance to score in Vegas. The big game awaits. Follow, like, tag, and repost now.
Detroit sports merch. It's a new era in sports wearables with new designs, amazing apparel. Go to woodwardsports.com/shop. Click on that shop tab. Trust me, we got hoodies, we got tees. Even though the season didn't end great, get prepared for next season. I'm telling you right now, Stoke Not Scared is not gonna die. Get the latest designs today at woodwardsports.com. Click on that shop tab.
Welcome back to the Morning Woodward Show live on the Woodward Sports Network. I just want to give a shout out, and JB, you'll understand why I'm doing this, to Kool-Aid right now, because doing the phones in the sound booth is not easy.
No,
JB,
it is not.
You've done it a ton of times. I've done it a ton of times, and I'm sure I made his job a lot tougher by taking some calls, but you've obviously done a great job at it. I know a lot of people called into the post-game show last night, but if you called in the post-game show, or if you didn't and you just want to get your chance to vent, call in right now. And Kool-Aid, who do we have first on the line?
Let's see. First up on the line was Trayvon from Trenton, New Jersey.
All right, Trayvon, what's up, man? What do you want to talk about?
All right, one, we already know Dan Campbell. It's Dan Campbell's fault because, Ben Johnson ain't going to keep going on 4th down. You could have kicked them 2 field goals, made a touchdown, that would have been game. This is not Madden. When you get that far, you take any points that you can get, and then you go for the win. You don't keep going on 4th down, and it's the 49ers. You kick that field goal, and that's it. Period. That's it. After you kick them 2 field goals and get that touchdown, the game is over.
I'm going to disagree. That game was not over. This was a 27-0 run. They're getting their asses kicked.
Bro, they gave up 2 field goals and got a touchdown at the end of the game. I know you was watching the
brother.
Game
they were down 10 at the end of the game, and so they scored a meaningless touchdown.
Bro, they gave up. How many times they went on 4th down? Twice, and they got shut down. They could have kicked 2 field goals.
All right, they still would have lost. They still would have lost the game. That's my point. Stop. They got their asses kicked. This didn't come down to 2 field goals. That's bullshit.
The 2 field goals. That's 6 points plus 7.
And they still would have lost. Don't you get it?
They would have won.
Look at the
math. They would have won.
Look at the math.
They would have won.
No, they wouldn't. They were getting clowned, man. I know you love your team, and we always want to compartmentalize. Well, there's 1 play, 2 plays, whatever. No, they got their asses kicked. Couldn't tackle, couldn't catch the ball, couldn't even do a simple handoff.
They got Vildor and Sutton getting murdered. They got to get rid of them. They can't stick nobody.
Okay.
They've been getting smoked.
If Dan Campbell had kicked a field goal, would Vildor have been benched? No. Would they have gotten rid of these players you don't want on the field? No. Brother, sometimes we got to admit, it wasn't 1 play. It wasn't Dan Campbell. They got clowned for 40 plays in the second half. They were down 10.
That was after they got stopped twice on 4th down.
Because they were getting clowned. Dude, you're looking at possibly 6 points. But at that point, I'm not going to put this on Dan Campbell because if you know,
Who
Josh
tell
Reynolds,
us to go on fourth
how
down?
about this? How about catching a pass? You're a professional athlete.
Look, if Josh Reynolds keep dropping the ball, put Donovan Jones-Peoples in. He got hands. Don't keep putting these people in the predicament. You got multiple players that can do multiple things better.
That is correct. But that doesn't come down to Dan Campbell and the field goals. Here, you know, Ben Johnson. We can't say anything bad about Ben Johnson because he's the savior around here. How can you be the offensive coordinator, brother? How can you be the offensive coordinator that everybody wants and you don't target St. Brown for a whole quarter? Come on,
that's
dude.
true, but that fourth downs, that's all Dan Campbell. We all know that. Dan Campbell got the last say-so.
Well, and Trayvon, I agree with you more than Terry, and I just want to read this comment.
Thank you.
I want to read this comment from John Macaron, one of our the best guests we've ever had on the Morning Woodward Show. Shout out, and I agree with this. If Dan takes the 3 points, and he's talking about the points that the potential 45-yard field goal that would have put him up by 17, then Aaron Glenn would have called different defenses, and the Ayuk play does not happen. Take the points, and I agree with that. I understand that in the second half there was an avalanche of bad plays. Josh Reynolds drops, the Gibbs fumble, the fact that the defense couldn't stop a nosebleed. But I think that first fourth down where they went for it and didn't kick the field goal, I think that plays a role. And I know, Terry, you think they would have lost anyway. I think the Lions would have still won that game.
If they make the field goal, does the defense all of a sudden tackle? They didn't tackle in the second half.
Bro, they would have still had the lead. You can't. This is the Super Bowl. Bro, this ain't nothing. You take the points. This is not nothing. You take the points. You got to go to the Super Bowl.
Hey, Trayvon.
He's on the same team that been on 0-16. You just gave up a Super Bowl because you want to play Madden?
No, thank you so much for the call, Trayvon. You got Terry. I like this side of you. I appreciate that. Who do we got next, Kool-Aid? Thank you so much, Trayvon. You're the man.
We got Vin from Virginia.
Vin from Virginia.
All right.
How you feeling today, man?
I'm feeling just like all y'all today, man.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So, I mean, I know how I wanted to talk about Dan Campbell and his decision making. I know how Terry feels about it. I'm more leaning towards your sentiment, Sam. I just, like you said, I felt like the unraveling happened as soon as he didn't go for that field goal. Yeah, that's Campbell. He's aggressive. Players got to make plays, so they failed him in that respect. But as a head coach and leader of this team, I guess my thing was Campbell. No one's perfect. Campbell's not a perfect coach, so I kind of was hoping like post game, he would have taken some ownership. But he said he doesn't regret it. I know that's not. I know he's not saying like it's not his fault, but I would have liked him to take some ownership.
Okay, stop. Let me stop you there. He did not say it was not my fault. He said,
"No, I
don't regret the decision." That's being a man.
I know he said I don't regret the decision, but when you say something like that, it kind of seems like okay, it wasn't wrong. But we could argue about that and all. But I guess I'll leave it at that. I just want to know. I know we're talking about the future of this team and how optimistic we are. Is there any concern on your end about Jared Goff and him? We haven't seen him without Ben Johnson play well. We've seen him with Anthony Lynn. It was crap. I was hoping the guy behind Ben Johnson was going to, step up. Now I think he's being interviewed by the Patriots. Any concern there, fellas?
Do I have concern? I do. I will admit I do have concern what Jared Goff is going to be in the future. However, I will set this. I do think this is a real franchise. And if you're a real franchise and if you are consider yourself championship caliber, guess what? Next man up. They will find an offensive coordinator. Ben Johnson is not the only offensive coordinator in the world that can get something out of Jared Goff. Now, if this was the old Lions, we talking same old Lions, I'd be petrified. I'd say Jared Goff is done. But they will find somebody who will still get the best out of Jared Goff. And I know Ben Johnson is this great guy, but you know what? I still think Ben Johnson's got flaws as an offensive coordinator. The show will go on.
I think everyone has flaws, yes.
The show will go on.
He does have flaws as an offensive coordinator, but can you admit, Terry, that Ben Johnson overall as an offensive coordinator for the Lions has been a net positive?
He's a net positive.
Okay. All right.
But he is not God.
No,
how about that?
He's not God, but
we treat him as God.
But he's one of the best coordinators in the league. He's one of the best offensive coordinators in football right now.
All I know is Amon-Ra St. Brown went a whole quarter without being targeted.
He wasn't perfect. I mean, Ben Johnson certainly had his, and that kind of plays into, and I don't want to do this, but I think it's fair because this Lions team is young and up and coming. Maybe the moment was just too big for a lot of players, coaching and coaching staff included. Thank you so much for the call, Vin. I hope you're doing okay in the next up and coming days. I hope we can all get through this together. And Kool-Aid, who do we got next?
We got Mike M. from Three Rivers, Michigan.
Mike M. from Three
All right,
Rivers,
someone
Michigan.
from Michigan. All right, here we go.
How's it going, Mike M?
It's going, I mean, as good as can be.
Sure.
I just wanted to say everybody just needs to calm down. It was a great season overall. I mean, it was yesterday is upsetting and disappointing. But I'm 54 years old, and I've never seen the Lions in an NFC Championship game, and I'm happy and thankful for just that. And life will go on. As a Lions fan yesterday, I'll be a Lions fan tomorrow, and life will be okay. So everybody just seems like the sky is falling. The sky is not falling. This was still a successful season. We will be okay.
No, you know what? You're absolutely right. Now, I talk to young people who say, oh, you know, the Lions have been bad for the last 10, 20 years. Dude, where have you been? This franchise has been a buffoon franchise for 60 years. What we saw in the playoffs and even what we saw yesterday for this franchise was great.
I mean, it was the best season any of us, I mean, including you, Mike M, and you, Terry, have, and you guys are a little older. That's the best Lions season that you guys have ever seen. I certainly have ever seen. So there's certainly a lot to be grateful for. I just think with the way that the Lions lost, the fact that I really think, and Mike, you can answer this, were you feeling pretty confident when it was 24-7 at halftime that the Lions were going to close it out?
Yes, at halftime, I'm sending texts to all my friends. Yeah. Hey, we're dominating the first half. Everything looks good. Keep your fingers crossed. And it didn't turn out the way I wanted it. You know, and I gotta admit, I was really upset at the end. And last night, I wasn't wanting to talk to anybody. It disappointed me. Yeah. I woke up today and I was like, I'm still thankful for the season that I saw. I mean, I've never seen this from my Lions before, and it still was an impressive season. And I know that and I still have faith in Holmes to make the corrections, and I believe that next year we will be a juggernaut in the NFL.
It certainly looks set up for that. Thank you for the call, Mike M. And when we come back, we're going to take a few more calls. But first, I have to tell you about Planet Fitness. Hopefully the Lions can get some off-season workouts at Planet Fitness. But Planet Fitness is home of the judgment-free zone where anyone, and we mean anyone, can feel comfortable and work on their fitness goals. At Planet Fitness, you'll experience a squeaky clean gym that has tons of equipment, a full-body workout in just 30 minutes, and all memberships include fitness training. You get all of this for only $10 a month, no commitment. No matter where you are, there's a Planet Fitness close by. There are more than 50 in Metro Detroit and thousands more throughout the world. It's Planet Fitness, where your fitness is essential.
Come to Lady Jane's for an award-winning haircut experience and register for a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to win an all-expenses-paid suite for the 2024 NCAA tournament for you and 5 of your best buds. Lady Jane's open 7 days a week. Walk in anytime. It's wicked awesome.
We are the network for Detroit by Detroiters. Welcome to the Woodward Sports Network.
Oh, yeah. Listen. G-G-G-G-A. Oh, sorry. I forgot. There we go. Oh, cheers, buddy. I think we need to get you a pick.
Welcome back to the Morning Woodward Show, live on the Woodward Sports Network, and we've got some more calls to get to. I know there's some people waiting on the line. Kool-Aid, who do we have next?
Hey, we got Norm from Chicago, and he wanted to make this clear. 50 years in suffering Lions fan.
Norm, well, how are you feeling this morning? Are you still suffering, or are you feeling the optimism for the future?
Well, Sam, boys, thank you so much for giving me Woodward Sports. Dying here in Chicago as a Lions fan with my son.
Oh, it's got to be
You guys have made this whole season great for me. And I would like to point out something as 50 years a fan. First of all, the first game I remember as a child is watching a guy with half a foot beat the Lions with a 63-yard kick at the end of the game.
Oh, I remember
That's
that
how
one.
I started. That's how I started, Terry. And here's what everyone's missing. Of course, my heart is ripped out like everyone else, but we didn't deserve it, and the second half proved it. We're not quite ready. But here's what I'd like to point out. Listen to what everyone is saying. It's Super Bowl or bust, guys. That has never been said in the history of the Lions. That's where we really are, which is, you want to call optimism? We're just not used to being here, and that's how we're reacting. We belong here, and we are saying Super Bowl or bust next season. I cannot even believe that is being said as a 50-year Lions fan.
No, I'm going to agree with you. I don't think Lion fans understand how to handle success.
We do not.
There's this guy. Every year he would bug me at the car wash. Oh, the Lions, they're gonna be good this year. And the Lions sucked. I mean, they were bad. I knew they were gonna be bad, but he saw this optimism. Now this year, after I think it was it was the Seattle loss. It was real. I was looking for a man. He said they're not gonna win a game the rest of the season. I said, dude, what is wrong with you? When they were bad, you had all this optimism, and now they're actually a real franchise, and now you talking this mess? The Lion fans have panicked after every loss. Every loss, they panic. It's not like, hey, we messed up. What do you have to do to rebound? Blah, blah. It's like, oh, it's over. It's done. But it's not like this, because if you're a real franchise, you know what you do? You lose games, you shrug it off and say, okay, win the next one. In this case, lost a devastating game. No question it was devastating. And y'all should be feeling bad. But I think the narrative in Allen Park should be, we screwed up. So what do we do now? What do you do in the draft? What do you do in free agency? What do you do as far as getting these guys ready for the following season? What do we do to have a Super Bowl run?
I mean,
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. That's exactly what I'm saying, Terry. And that conversation has not been had in 50 years of the Lions fan. Of exactly what Terry is saying is, we've gotten incredibly better every year. We're not going to stop getting better. We know not one superstar we need. Now we know exactly the holes to fill, and we're going to be better. Is it going to be tougher? Yes, but we'll be tougher.
No, it honestly feels great to say Super Bowl or bust. I know great expectations.
That's what I'm saying,
yeah.
Sam.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of there's
It's
pressure.
never been said.
Yeah, there's pressure that comes along with it, but you'd rather, if they continue on this linear path, which they are, the Super Bowl is certainly the next step, and hopefully you won't have to be suffering for too much longer. Thank you so much, Norm. Call back anytime. Kool-Aid.
Sam, thank you. Can I say one thing, Sam?
Absolutely.
Can we stop having you do the promos for the haircuts unless we're having haircuts for gamer nerds?
Damn. Wow, Norm.
Wow.
That's all right. You know what? That's
Just
that's
a straight
Sam,
on
I
the
love
way
you.
out.
Sam, I love you. Sam, I love you, but like, dude, I love your hair, but like, unless you're gonna say if you want a haircut for a gamer nerd, get a Sam. Look at Sam and get this haircut.
You know what?
Comb it back, Sam. You're a handsome man. Push it back. Get yourself a little pompadour. You're gonna look amazing.
I appreciate that.
Oh yeah, you should have a little doo up there.
Man.
Oh man, Carrie, back me up. If Sam
Yeah, the bangs are
Hair
dead.
back,
Yeah, let's
if
get a little
you want
mousse
to
up there.
if you want to call him, if you want
Good to see
to call
Sam
him
smiling
bangs,
this morning.
call him bangs, Terry. I'll call it bedhead.
Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah, that's true.
Well,
Very.
Let's see more of your face.
I
All right.
I appreciate
All right.
your guys' input, but one person whose opinion matters, my
here
wife
comes
likes
girlfriend.
it, so it's
Here
okay.
comes the
Yeah, but
wife.
she don't know any better. We got to educate her.
Yeah, she's settling, Sam.
Damn! Now I'm like not the prize, but that's all right, Norm. I know
I'm
you're just
talking about
busting.
haircuts, Sam. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about haircuts.
I know you're just busting my
What?
chops, but thank you so much again,
All right.
Norm. I
Thank
really
you guys.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you guys for everything all year. Thank you.
Thank you for continuing to support Kool-Aid. Damn,
Bro, it
Who do
was
I-
tough to follow that call. It was like, hey, here's a stray, your hair. Then all of a sudden it's, no, you're handsome. Then it's like, you know what, ha, ha, ha. Then it's like, oh, here he goes with the waxing. I'm like, whoa.
You handsome, ha, ha, ha.
No, I really like you, Sam. But, hey, here's another stray on the way out. I'm like, wow, okay.
All right, so whose job is it to follow that Kool-Aid? Who do we have next?
We got Chewy from Detroit.
All right.
Chewy.
What up? What up? What up? What do you want to? How you feel this morning?
I'm sorry, you talking to me?
Yes, I'm talking to you. Yes.
Oh, excuse me. I'm feeling super optimistic for the future. I've been watching the Lions for 25 years of my life. I'm a young fan. All right, I've only known same old Lions my entire life. Right?
Yeah.
Didn't make it to the playoffs with Matthew Stafford. Even though drafting Calvin Johnson, he's unguardable. Couldn't get anything done with that. And this season, it was Dan Campbell keeping his promise. It was Sheila Hemp doing what she had to do to get the right people in this office, in this establishment, in this franchise. Jared Goff, for me, pay him his money. Don't go outrageous with the money. All right, make him motivated to get that extra step. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you're gonna have to pay him $50 million. That's the going rate now.
Well, too bad, so sad, Sue. But
so you gonna pay him
anyway? If anything, if they go above $45 million, then it's like, I don't know, maybe that's a bold move, but we'll see. For me, I'm cool with all of my players.
You have to do it. You got to pay that man $50 million, at least $47.5 million. That's just the going
Well, then
rate.
you know what? The man has gone on a historic run with the Detroit Lions. Pay him his money.
Okay.
I don't care. All right, we got Gibbs, we got St. Brown, we got people. All right, I understand everyone's sad about yesterday, but that was on a really, really dumb luck catch. All right, honestly, that should have been an interception or at least an incomplete pass. But to have it bounce that far off his face mask and get that super lucky catch, that was the only thing they had on it, to be real. Like, for me. And then Reynolds dropping a couple of passes, that's to blame on those 4th and 2s. But for me, looking at that and seeing how we had them from the first half, for next year, hopefully we're not going to be making that same mistake in the second half for any other game, because that just makes me super optimistic for the future, guys.
I mean,
I just want to say one thing.
Yeah.
You guys are the best sports network, because ESPN, all of these stations and podcasts, they do not give Lions players or Lions attention enough. And I appreciate that I can look on YouTube or go on a Spotify podcast and listen to people actually appreciate the team for what it is.
Hey, and that's what we're here for, and I really, really appreciate you calling in and continuing to support. You are more than welcome to call back anytime. You were a great caller. And coming up next, we're gonna, you know what? I'm doing an audible. We are going to scrap mailbag for today and just take callers for the rest of the show because you guys are doing such a great job. And I'm loving, I know TFos, we're loving listening to you guys and getting the pulse of the people.
I think we should do this every show.
And we will. As long as you're here, we will take calls
I'm the
every single day.
program director now.
Hey, that's a great suggestion, though. For real. Hey, but before we go, you know what makes me feel better after Lions losses? My golden retriever Jake and my orange cat Milo. And you can give your pet the best like I give my pet the best at Premier Pet Supply. Premier Pet Supply is hands down Michigan's best pet store. Same prices and all the conveniences of the online and big box retailers. With one major difference. Family and locally owned and operated for 30 plus years. Over 60 brands of food with nutrition experts to help you. Same day, local curbside and home delivery. Premier Pet Supply, give your pet the best. Visit their website at premierpetsupply.com.
Where's the most convenient place to get that big fitness energy? It's Planet Fitness. Join today for just $1 down, $10 a month. With over 2,400 locations and equipment for every workout, you can get in, get energized, and get going. And with free fitness training and most clubs open 24 hours, everyone belongs in the judgment-free zone. So join today for $1 down, $10 a month, no commitment, cancel anytime.
Feel alive during Feldman Chevrolet's biggest New Year's sales event ever. Get the best prices on our huge selection of award-winning Chevrolets. Like this 2024 Equinox for $188 per month. Or this 2024 Silverado for $268 per month. It's the New Year's sales event going on now at Feldman Chevrolet, Michigan's #1 Chevy dealer.
Your home is your most important asset. Flexibility in the sales process is key. When you work with Mark White & Associates, you can cancel at any time, for any reason, without penalty. Speaking of flexibility, check this out. Who you work with matters. Hire the best broker in the game.
And welcome back to the Morning Woodward Show live on the Woodward Sports Network. And maybe we should cut Josh Reynolds and put Mark White on the team. He certainly got some ups and he made the catch. But we're going to take some more phone calls to close out the show. And Kool-Aid, who do we have next?
Man, let's see here. I believe Sky from Michigan is up next. And actually on Twitter, Lions Fan Report. So you might know his handle.
All right, Sky, Lions Fan Report. What would you like to talk about today? How are you feeling?
What's going on today, boys? I want to start out and kind of premise this conversation I'm about to have with you guys with I'm not the same old Lions fan because Terry's going to probably rip me about this a little bit. But jumping into back about the field goal situation and the calls that Dan made, I want to jump back into that really quick because I really and really enough, Sam, this is like the first time I've actually agreed with you with something.
The first time? Come on now.
The very first time, I swear.
So you saying he's a doofus?
Yeah, sorry about that, Sam.
All right, okay.
But
you saying
Terry,
Sam is a dumbass?
A lot of times, we'll say that.
Okay, all right. I'm not willing to go that far, but if you do, go ahead.
Thank you, Terry.
Yeah. So the calls. So let's start out with the first field goal call that was weird going into the second half. So you're telling me that Dan is willing to not go for it on 4th and goal right before the second half, up 14, but he wouldn't. He will go for it on the 4th downs, up about to wash the 3 points that San Francisco got on the first drive, coming back in the second half, in a third quarter that we know we're bad at. Like this, what you're saying doesn't make sense. And then Dan makes 2 bad calls, and then we're trying to justify it, and then he goes even further by justifying it himself in the conference.
Maybe
those were bad calls. Those are bad calls, Terry.
Let me say this. Maybe
you don't make those calls.
Right, baby boy, hang on for a second. Maybe Dan Campbell felt he had to be up 21 because he knew there was an onslaught coming. Maybe he didn't feel comfortable the 17 was enough. And here's what I always hear from fans. I've been in this business for like 50 years. You got to put your foot on their throat. Don't let off. If you think you can bury somebody, bury them. Go all the way. They jump big and bad until it doesn't work. Then it's, we should have been a little more conservative and blah, blah, blah. So,
it's weird that I knew you were going to say that, though, Terry. Go ahead.
This is Dan Campbell. So, do you want him as your coach or not?
No, I agree with that, but we got to understand what football is. I know he's never been to the playoffs, but we need to have an understanding that playoffs are a little bit different in season. In season, you have 17 fucking games. True. You can make mistakes. You can go for it on 4th and down here and there and make mistakes. But when you're up in a game, especially in the playoffs in a do or die game, no coach in the world besides Dan Campbell goes for it when you can take points to go up more. You don't do that. That's not what you do in a game like this. John Madden is rolling over in his grave today, thinking about what Dan Campbell did last night when he could have went up. And what you said earlier to the guy earlier, we would have been up 3 more. 6 plus what we added at the end of the touchdown. There it is. We've been winning games on last-minute drives. Even if they do go up, that last-minute drive that we had right there would have at the end of the game with probably, a minute left, which what we've been doing. It doesn't make sense. Dan pissed down his leg yesterday. I'm happy for the future. We got the draft next year. It's going to be a great season, great future, but he pissed down his leg yesterday. Hope he learns.
I will say this. I'm not angry with you, but how many football teams win a game when they got run 27-0 in like a quarter?
It doesn't matter, though. In that situation, Terry, we're up so much. They spotted us so many points, and people will sit here and say, to your point, that we should have went for the points, but we got them in situations.
Now, check this. The difference between winning and losing yesterday was either being up 17 or 14. When you got run 27-0 and couldn't tackle.
Terry, we would have got the 6 points, though. We would have got the 6 points. That's my whole point of this is we would have got the points in that situation. You take the points being up.
You still would have lost.
No, momentum wouldn't have changed. We would have lost their 3 points in that third quarter. Remember, they got the 3 points. We drive down, get in a 45-year goal. We lost their momentum. Instead, we give them more momentum by giving up a 4th down. Now they come down and their dicks are hard and they're going downfield. Think about that. That's a whole momentum shift in itself. Dan made the mistake. We got to understand that. It's okay to be 2 things to be right. That he made a mistake and he's owning it to the point where he's going to stay his way, which is fine, whatever. But playoff Dan needs to get better in these situations is my only thing.
Sky, you know that I agree with you on this one. And I guess the thing, too, is when the 49ers got that stop, when the Lions went for it on 4th and 2 and Josh Reynolds dropped that pass, that was really – I know that they forced the Lions to punt once in the first half, but the 49ers were probably getting worn down and feeling demoralized because they could not stop the Lions' offense. And then because they went for it and didn't kick the field goal – I mean, I get it. It's a 45-yard field goal. It's not automatic. I personally think –
It is. No, I'm going to say it is.
All right. Well, by that premise –
He's good within 50. He's good within 50.
I personally think, and maybe Terry, that you disagree, that going up 17 is a kill shot to some extent because it is 3 points. I think missing that.
It's 3 possessions, right, Sam? Am I wrong?
Yes, 3. I said 3 points. Yes, three possessions. Absolutely. So I agree more with you, and I agree. That wasn't the only thing that the Lions did wrong. There were a million different things that have to go wrong for you to give up a 27.
The drop balls, all those things.
All right,
yeah.
Can I ask a question? Weren't the Lions up 3 possessions at some point in that game?
Yeah, they were.
And they still didn't win.
But
my ass.
They held the 49ers to a field goal on the 49ers' first drive coming out of the third quarter. What the Lions could have done while taking off more time is get that 17-point lead back. I think personally...
Exactly. It washed the momentum. Boom.
I think that the Lions win that game if they make that field goal. I know you disagree.
Me too, Sam. Me too.
Green Bay, against Atlanta, yes, they would have won. But this was San Francisco, who took your best shot, looked at you and said, that all you got? Here we come. And then the Lions are like, for 40 plays, we're like, oh my God, look at them. Here they come. I'm not going to. Look, I actually agree with you. I would have kicked the field goal. But I don't think this game came down to that field goal. It came down to the other 40 plays where the Lions look like snot.
Now, Terry, my only thing to say to that is the fact that we got to realize that, like, things happen in football. Like, between the lines, like, shit happens. Drop balls, fumbles, like, all those things happen. But when a team spots you these points, and then your offense, we sit here and we'll say, our offense didn't do shit in the third. Our offense put us in position, or in the second half, our offense put us in position twice to get points. That's all we're asking. Being spotted points and being up is, guys, go out there and put us in point position. He did that.
You know who didn't drop balls yesterday? The Kansas City Chiefs, who always drop balls.
Yeah.
This is when it's time, you have to execute as a team. I'm not going to look at
but
two
the coach
plays
has got
and say
control,
this
Terry.
is why they lost. Yeah, but the coach, his biggest flaw is he has confidence that these guys are always going to execute. Do you think he should back off of that and say, okay, you know what, my guys are human. They're going to make mistakes. They're not going to be able to execute, so I'm going to back down? I mean, I'm talking about in general. This is who this dude is.
Yes. In the playoffs, you play tighter, Terry. You know this. It's the playoffs. You're not playing the fucking Vikings, dude, or the Broncos. You're playing the 49ers.
You fucking down 10 points. You have 14 damn points. You can't hang on because of one call? Give me a break. Then that means you don't belong there. You're not a championship team.
Points are points, Terry. You're up. Points are points. You take the points.
And even when he went for it, he was still up. He was up 14 with more than half the game gone. You're supposed to hang on to that.
And you know what? I get what I agree with you that the field goal should have been kicked. I think they win if they kick the field goal, but I also agree that a 14-point lead, you should be able to hang on to that. But at the same time, they lost momentum, and it's really hard to come back for that. Thank you so much for the call, Sky. I like when you and Terry have a little bit of a back and forth, and I just want to get to this from Cody Ingle. Sky wants to blame Dan, but isn't talking about the drop passes, the Gibbs fumble, and our defense being shit. I don't think that what Sky was saying or what I'm saying is that we're putting all of the onus of the loss on Dan Campbell.
You put most of it.
No, I think he made a bad decision, but also a lot of, like, Josh Reynolds choked. Jameer Gibbs, after making a big touchdown run and a lot of big plays, he choked. The defense couldn't stop anything.
When did Josh Reynolds choke?
Josh Reynolds choked
on what play?
On that fourth down.
Exactly.
And then he choked again later.
But that's the point, though. Josh Reynolds choked. That's where Terry is saying he's putting confidence in his players to make the play. It would be different if Josh Reynolds choked on like a 2nd and 7 and he just didn't catch the first down. He choked on the actual play that we're talking about. The kick the field goal, take the points. And to me personally, I am on the side of, you know what? Me personally, I would have kicked the field goals, but who Dan Campbell has shown himself to be, that's who he's been. That's how we got to this point. But I don't think that it's as easy as, well, we lost by 3, we should have took the 3.
Right.
I think that, we talk about, well, the defense would have made adjustments and the momentum and blah, blah, blah. San Francisco would have made adjustments.
Right.
They would have done things differently. They would have called up and schemed up different plays to be able to give themselves a better shot at winning. And honestly, if we stack team for team and we're talking about let's all hit our stride together, the 49ers are just a better team than the Detroit Lions. But I do agree, give yourself the opportunity to get as many points as you possibly can. But this is Dan Campbell.
I just think he felt 17 wasn't enough, that he needed more, and so that's why he went for it. And you know what? The play they called worked, except my man drops it.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. And for the record, Kool-Aid, I'm not saying that, the Lions lost by 3, so therefore that field goal would have made the difference. There's an element of the butterfly effect. If they kick the field goal and go ahead 17, you never know what's going to happen. It's not that simple. I think that was the right move. In my personal opinion, I thought 17 was a good lead, but maybe Dan Campbell didn't feel that way. And oh, by the way, guys, I apologize to the callers that I didn't get. We're actually over time, and we're going to take calls, though, as long as Terry Foster is here this week.
Every time I'm on, I want calls.
And you know what? We will try to make that an everyday thing because you guys have been absolutely excellent today, and I apologize again for those who are on hold, but we got to clear the studio out for Big D Energy, who is on from 11
we back
a.m.
tomorrow.
1 p.m. And we are back tomorrow.
Call tomorrow.
Call tomorrow. Please call tomorrow. We'll do the entire second hour calls if that's what you guys want. But thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate you guys for sticking through us through some turbulent times. I had a blast too, Terry. Yeah. You are an absolute delight to work with. For Terry Foster, JB Smooth, Detroit Kool-Aid. I am Flannel Sam.
Great
and
job,
we will
Sam.
see. Thank you, Kool-Aid. Great job to you doing pretty much everything in the booth. The sound, being basically like our on-air talent, and the phone guy. That is hard to do. But until
all of you guys did a great job. All I had to do is just be an asshole. So it was easy for me.
Shout out to the GOAT over there, JB, as well. Terry, you're a legend, bro.
Yes. And on that note, we will see you guys tomorrow from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Peace.